Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
Hello and welcome, folks. It is time to dive in on today's topic, discovering the security analytics tools and SecOps processes that maximize protection. I'm excited for today's topic because SecOps and DevSecOps is a hot topic these days and a struggle for many organizations. Today, we'll explore advanced security analytics technologies. We're going to learn some best practices for SecOps process optimization and discuss leveraging AI and machine learning for threat detection. Now, it sounds like a lot, but we are not alone. Today, we have the Cisco Duo team and Rubrik to help us navigate this timely conversation. And I'm sure you are all ready and pumped to get started. So we'll just go through a few last tidbits of info, and then we're going to get our speakers on out here to start things off with us. My name is Mackenzie Puddesy. If you haven't met me before, pleased to meet you. Feel free to say hi in the questions tab here in your console. Get everyone out there woken up and ready for today's presenters. And I am also accompanied by my fellow moderators here, Jess Steinbach, Scott Becker, and Keith Ward, who are all here on live chat with me today. Now, I've got a few more interesting things for you. I know I'm exciting, the information is exciting, but we indeed have some exciting prizes today. You could win one of three $300 Amazon gift cards, and we'll be drawing that for 3 lucky winners who are here, present, and live with us at the EcoCast. And as mentioned in the housekeeping chat this morning, you can find the full T's and C's linked in the handouts tab if you have any questions about that. And hey, with that last little thing, I believe we are ready to rock. Now we have an excellent keynote speaker with us today. We have Trevor Pott. He is a solutions architect, and he's going to be setting the stage for today's discussion. So with that, Trevor, I'm going to kick things over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this SecOps event, the purpose of which is, of course, to learn a little bit about the tools and processes that are going to help you as SecOps practitioners. So who am I? And why am I here giving you something of a keynote? I'm not really a big name in any way, shape, or form. I was a sysadmin. I'm a solutions architect now. Somewhere in the middle, I went through a whole bunch of writing and marketing. My job is essentially, as is, I'm sure, most of yours, to be Cassandra, scream into the void and really hope somebody listens. And as I'm sure many of you are, I am really, really tired. That doesn't take long when you work in InfoSec. Rather than attempt to sit here and talk to you about the latest, greatest trends and attempt to talk to you about tools or processes that I'm sure you're going to learn from many of the other people that will be speaking, I want to talk to you a little bit about how we conceptualize the entire space of SecOps. A lot of what you're going to hear, especially from vendors, is about how threat actors are very much the enemy and they're the ones that we have to focus on. And that's not really the case. That's like arguing that a hurricane is your enemy. Threat actors are just a force of nature. They're always going to be there. I think the bigger problem that we have as an industry is actually our vendors, not necessarily security vendors, but just vendors in general, who are constantly making new stuff without thinking about how are we going to secure that? How are we going to defend against its abuses? The end result of this is that the entire job of everybody who works in SecOps is to constantly be learning absolutely everything. We need to learn what is on our networks, what is on the networks that we are interacting with. How does all of it interact? Where is all of our data? What privacy risks are there? And increasingly, how does all of this change with whatever the latest update happens to be? Probably the biggest difficulty that most of us encounter, although this is definitely open for debate, is that there are a constant barrage of new threats. And here I'm not talking about 0 days, but I'm talking more about the fact that as more and more and more tools come out to solve every conceivable problem by using a computer, we have an infinite pool of tools, of privacy risks, of new and interesting ways that users can use all of this in ways that were never even envisioned by the developers. And unfortunately, in addition to having to learn all of this and attempt to constrain some of it, we have to deal with the fact that most of the errors that we're really going to have to deal with exist between the workers and the budget. It's important to remember that SecOps practitioners are far more important than any tool that we are ever going to be able to find. But the tools do help because they make dealing with the overwhelming volume that much easier. And of course, one of the latest problems that we have in this space is the emergence of AI being baked into everything. And very specifically, the fact that a lot of different vendors we used to trust, are now taking all of our data and using it to train AIs. An example of this is one very popular vendor, whom I won't name, who used to be the leading vendor in the workplace collaboration space, have recently updated their terms of service to reflect that they are now going to feed all of the data that we have ever put into there, including our direct messages, into their AI. And won't the prompt engineers have fun with that? SecOps is perhaps one of the most underappreciated approaches to IT and one of the most underappreciated groups of IT professionals out there. SecOps, as with the systems administrators of old, have to learn everything from DNS to the cloud and everything in between and automate as much of it as possible, because if we don't, we can't defend against it. It's not possible. There's too much out there. I think probably the thing that a lot of people don't appreciate, including, unfortunately, many of the vendors in the space, is that the real job of SecOps is not to throw up a bunch of barriers against whatever is our hypothetical attack, but it's actually to make security as invisible, or at least easy to use, as is humanly possible. The more difficult security is to use, of course, the less people will actually use it. And it is a constant struggle both to drive user adoption, to get users to accept training, but also to push back on our vendors to make sure that they are placing that ease of use at the forefront of everything that they develop. In the end, everything in this space boils down to the programs we have to deal with, the processes we have to invent, and of course, the politics necessary to get everybody to accept it. Good luck, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the event.
All right. Thank you so much, Trevor. That definitely gave us plenty to think about when approaching SecOps processes. And as for all of you out there in the audience, hopefully you enjoyed that as well. I've got a little test to make sure you are all alive, awake, and ready to hear from our presenters today, which is why I have a poll for you to answer before I introduce our first speaker. So the poll here you'll see asks, what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? Maybe it's right away. You're here, you need to get some stuff done, and you're looking to make some changes within the next 6 months. Maybe, you're kind of on a yearly timeline, maybe a couple of years, or maybe you're not quite sure. You're just here to get a lay of the land, learn about some new processes, some new tech that you can employ, and that is okay too. Now, that said, I'm going to get things zipping along. We have got two fantastic teams presenting on today's EcoCast. It's going to fly by, but it will be jam-packed with valuable information. As always, am I right? So let's dive in. I'm going to take that poll down now, and I'm going to bring on our first team here from Cisco Duo. We have got Jennifer Golden, Product Marketing Manager, as well as Scott Grebe. He's the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Cisco Duo. And with that, Jen, Scott, I'll let you two take it away.
My name is Jennifer Golden, and I'm here with my colleague Scott. We are both product marketers at Duo. And today we're going to talk about some common attack vectors we are seeing and how your organization can defend against them. And specifically, we're going to be focused on attacks targeting MFA or multi-factor authentication. So if we take a look at some of these headlines, we can see that recent attacks really show the need for stronger security. And when we see that an organization has MFA in place, and they're still a victim of an attack, that can be pretty intimidating. And so our goal in this webinar is to really demystify these headlines and think about how these attacks are happening, and then what are some simple, easy steps that your organization can take to better protect yourselves. So in order to do that, we need to understand, what are the attackers doing? Unfortunately, there are attack kits that make doing these attacks more simple. So in the past, where you might need super technical or special expertise, it's easier now for someone to just go on the dark web, purchase the kit, and deploy a pretty advanced attack. And so what actually happens in these attacks? One is a push bomb attack. So that might be where an individual user is receiving an MFA request over and over and over again until they accept. A push spray attack is pretty similar, although instead of just one individual, an attacker might target multiple individuals across an organization. The next kind of attack that we're seeing a lot is phishing one-time passcode. So a passcode that might be sent to a user through a text message or an email, and the trusted user might be tricked into giving that over to a bad actor trying to log in. And then finally, we also see attackers enrolling their own devices in MFA. So they don't need to bypass MFA for a trusted user. They can just send the authentication request to themselves and then accept it themselves. So these are a lot of different kinds of attacks, but we're going to break it down step by step so you have a good idea of what's happening each step of the way, and also what strategies you can put in place that would prevent these kinds of attacks. So with that, we're going to get started with number one, and I'm going to pass it over to Scott, and he's going to walk us through the first step in this process.
Great, thanks very much, Jen. As Jen said, yeah, there are a lot of different types that are of attacks that are out there today that we need to be careful of. And for the most part, they start with compromised credentials. So our attacker is getting somebody's username and password. I want to start out with kind of what I think is kind of a funny yet sad story at the same time, to kind of illustrate how passwords can be and accounts can be compromised. And my story is that I was sitting around the kitchen table the other day with my wife and two sons, who are, we'll call them young adults. And somehow the topic of security comes up and passwords. I think somebody needed to log into their like PlayStation account. And so we started talking about passwords, and I'm sitting back and I'm listening to all this. And, they're all talking about, oh, passwords, I hate having to create new passwords. It's really hard. I can't remember them. It makes it difficult to log into all of my accounts. And then one of my sons pipes up and he says, yeah, you know what I do? I just have really three passwords, and I just rotate them around all my accounts. It makes it so much easier. So as you can imagine, as somebody who works in cybersecurity, I'm just sitting there at the kitchen table. My head is just like, kind of slouching over going, I really can't believe that this is what my family's doing. But what it does is this really illustrates the point of how easy it can be to get somebody's credentials, especially the password. And then in a lot of cases, we find that passwords are either poorly constructed, for instance, and they're reused. And so this really makes it a lot easier for our attackers to get those credentials and then use them to launch an attack like Jen was just saying. So we're going to what we're going to do is we'll look at different types of attacks here throughout our session. And we're going to talk about those attacks and how Duo can help block them. So like I said, cyber attacks often start with our attacker getting that compromised credential. And you can see in the upper left-hand corner, that's our attacker. He's sitting there lurking, trying to hack into our account. And again, he's using the stolen password of a legitimate user, in this case, in our target organization. Hopefully it's not my son's, but he's got the password for somebody in our organization. So they've got those credentials, and they're going to use those to try to log in. So again, the attacker is going to use those credentials. They're going to try to log into an application. And in this case, it's Salesforce. And they're going to be directed to a single sign-on portal for Duo. And behind the portal is where the applications like single sign-on reside. So the attacker then uses the stolen password again to log into that SSO portal to access the application, or at least is going to try to do that. Fortunately, in this case, the attacker can't get in because our single sign-on portal and the Salesforce application, which is sitting behind the portal, are protected by multi-factor authentication, or MFA. Now, in the old days, this used to be enough. Our attackers would be faced with a request for a second factor, like a push notification, for example, and they wouldn't be able to proceed any further. However, as we all know, times change, and now MFA is more commonly used around the world. So, what we found is that attackers are launching new, more sophisticated attacks that target MFA. Earlier, you heard Jen mention some of those attacks that are out there, and now she's going to take us through one of those attacks and show how Duo can prevent it.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So now we're in the next phase of the attack. Like Scott said before, when MFA was a new technology, that authentication request would pop up and stop an attacker in their tracks. But now we'll see things like these push bombing attacks, where what an attacker does is once they get through that login and they get stopped by the prompt, they don't stop. They keep going over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a workday. So you would be used to accepting an authentication request. So whoops, you just hit accept. It doesn't matter if you are at the dinner table. I know for myself personally, I have a 1-year-old who her new technique is to throw all her food on the floor. And then I have a dog who wants to go eat all that food. And so I have a million things going on. And if my phone starts to blow up with authentication requests, I might also just accept it. Or what if it's happening at 2 a.m, right? So we have to think about our users and them going about their day-to-day lives and what happens when they get confronted with this kind of attack. And like I said, some people might do it out of habit. They're so used to using multi-factor authentication. They might do it just to make the notification stop. And so what we see here is, if that happens, the attacker is in. They now have access and they can escalate their privileges and escalate their damage. So in that scenario, there are some simple steps that you can take as a Duo user to stop these attacks. So the first one we're going to talk about is verified Duo push. So now we're in our Duo admin panel. And if you go into authentication methods, you can set up that the Duo push, rather than being a traditional push where it has the green check mark or the red X, you can add a code. And so now a number will pop up on the access device, like your laptop, and you have to enter it into the Duo mobile app. You can configure the amount of digits. You can also turn this on for a certain amount of users, for a certain amount of applications, or you can turn it on globally for your entire organization. So that this is one method to step up the authentication requirements at every login. Now, you might get some pushback from your organization, your daily trusted users who are logging in to do their job, and they don't want to enter a code every time they log in. So for those organizations, we also have risk-based authentication as another solution. Now, what this does is it only steps up a user to a verified Duo push if we recognize an attack pattern is going on. So we'll go through that same workflow, but think about it from an organization that has either verified Duo push or risk-based authentication configured. So let's go back and put on our attacker hat. So we're leaving our Duo admin panel and we're pretending like we're the attacker logging in. So same as what Scott had mentioned, we're starting at Salesforce. We're selecting login with Duo SSO. We already know that this attacker has the username and password. So they go to login, and this time when they get a verified Duo push, when they get a push request, it is a verified Duo push. So the attacker has the code, but I'm the trusted user. I don't have that code. I have no way to enter that. And also, I'm not logging in. So I can select, I'm not logging in. Make it really easy for our trusted users to know this is not me. And that we can report that to our Duo administrators who can take further action and look into what's going on. So we stop that attacker in their tracks. Now, another way that we can prevent attackers from gaining access is by looking at where the attacker and the user are located. So one way we can think about it is, I'm a trusted user. I log in at 9 a.m. in New York. Well, at 10 a.m., someone in LA is also trying to log into my account. Well, that's impossible. I can't get from New York to LA in 1 hour. So something fishy is going on. And we can look at that data around the user, their location, their devices, and really understand, is this a trusted situation where we should enable a trusted user to log in, or something going on and this is a red flag? So if we put back on our Duo admin hat, we can have full visibility into our organization and what's happening. Like we said in this last scenario, well, that was an unrealistic travel situation. So we know that user would mark it as fraud. They're not trying to log in and would be stepped up to the verified Duo push. And then from an administrative perspective, you have full visibility into what happened in that moment and why it happened. So when we have those examples of the push harassment attacks happening, this way we know our users are able to stop it. So an end user doesn't have to worry about their phone blowing up with notifications. And our admins have the tools to investigate and really have better visibility into what's going on in their org. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Scott, who's going to walk us through the next phase in an attacker's journey.
Great, thanks, Jen. I would like to say that, yes, an example of unrealistic travel would be like me getting an all expenses paid vacation to somewhere tropical by myself and having a nice time and being able to relax. So, okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to look, as Jen said, we're going to look at this next inflection point, and that's what you see kind of in the green rectangle there. And in this particular case, our attacker is attempting to register their own authentication device. And typically that authentication device is going to be their mobile phone. And the purpose of that is to be able to set up MFA on that device so that they can bypass the legitimate user and receive push notifications themselves. And if they can do that, right, like I said, they've removed now our victim, if you will, from the equation, and they're receiving those push notifications on their device, and they go ahead and approve it themselves. So in this particular case, Duo is able to stop this, and let's take a look at how. So first, Duo supports phishing-resistant authentication factors for MFA, such as FIDO2 security keys and platform biometrics, such as Touch ID and Windows Hello, for instance. Duo also helps prevent suspicious device enrollment, what we're talking about now, by allowing administrators to map users to specific devices using something that we refer to as Duo Device Trust. And by doing that, they're able to limit authentications to only devices that are known and trusted by the organization. Duo has something else called Duo Device Health, and this allows IT administrators to block access to specific applications based on outdated software versions that are running on the device. So for instance, is the device running an outdated operating system? If it is, we don't consider that to be a healthy device, and you can say if it's not running at least version X.Y, then we're going to go ahead and block it until that device has been updated and is considered healthy. We have another feature called Duo Trust Monitor, and Duo Trust Monitor includes something called registration threat detection. And registration threat detection alerts administrators when a new enrollment event for a device matches an attack pattern that we're seeing in the wild. And then it enables the administrator to go ahead and mitigate that attack. So we've gone back, and what we're showing here is we've gone back to our administrator here, and she's in the Duo admin panel. In the Duo admin panel, you can see that she's able to create a policy that requires the use of a WebAuthn authentication factor. So for instance, either a security key, if you use YubiKeys, for instance, or a biometric, whether it's facial recognition or, like I mentioned earlier, Touch ID, in order to access that self-service portal and then go ahead and register their device. So this is going to prevent the attacker from being able to authenticate to the self-service portal and register the device. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like in action. Our attacker here is trying to access that self-service portal and begins the authentication process. After completing primary authentication, the attacker clicks on, as you can see in the bottom, clicks on Other Options. And this allows the attacker to bring up the choice to access the self-service portal where they can go ahead and manage devices. So for instance, like adding that new mobile phone. However, because of the policy that we saw our administrator set that requires the use of a security key, or in this case, you can see it's biometrics with Touch ID, that attack is thwarted and our attacker cannot register their own device. So this is a great way to go ahead and stop, again, what we call device enrollment by the attacker. So there's another Duo feature that can also be used to block the attack at each stage. And you can see now, right, our green rectangle has expanded dramatically to cover all these different types of attacks. And so this feature is called Duo Trusted Endpoints. So let's talk about that a little bit. Trusted Endpoints uses a client application called Duo Desktop to identify company-issued managed devices. So for instance, if your company has given you a laptop and it's running the mobile device management or MDM solution on it, and it can differentiate those from personal unmanaged or BYOD devices. So if you bring your own laptop to work, for instance, and try to log onto the network. And by doing this, it helps establish trust in the end user devices. Duo Desktop, that client application I mentioned, is really a multi-purpose app. It does a few things. It combines health and security checks. So earlier I talked about being able to tell if a device is considered healthy because it's running the latest operating system. And it combines security checks as well, along with the ability to identify managed and unmanaged devices. So at the time of authentication, Duo Desktop is going to check to see if the device, the access device, is compliant with your access security policy. For example, is the device, again, running an out-of-date operating system? Is disencryption enabled? Are we using a host firewall? And if it's not, if any of these doesn't meet your access requirements, then that device is going to be blocked. Now, Duo Desktop also works with Duo Trusted Endpoints to, again, identify company-issued and managed devices and personal unmanaged or BYOD devices. And it does this using unique device identifiers. So with trusted endpoints, organizations can determine which endpoints are trusted and which are not. And in this case, the attacker's device is not registered in our inventory of trusted devices, something that we refer to as the Duo cache. So because it's not registered and in that Duo cache or that trusted inventory, that device is not considered trusted and is therefore immediately blocked from accessing any resources on the network. So that is Duo trusted endpoints and how you can thwart attackers from registering their own devices. Here we're back in the Duo admin panel. And again, to further strengthen authentication, our administrator, she's going ahead and she's enabling the trusted endpoints policy in the Duo admin panel. And when this policy is enforced, again, only devices that are registered with Duo are granted access to protected applications. Any unknown device is considered untrusted and therefore it's blocked by default. So let's go back and we're going to revisit our attack simulation with the trusted endpoints policy enabled. Here, again, the push phishing starts with the attacker using those stolen credentials of our legitimate user in our organization. The attacker goes to log into an application, and again, they're targeting Salesforce because they want access to all of our customer accounts and information, and they're directed to the Duo SSO portal for authentication. The attacker logs in using those compromised credentials. However, in this case, the attacker is immediately blocked because their device is not in the organization's inventory of trusted devices, and therefore the user's user, our legitimate user, is not even bothered with an MFA request. This minimizes the human element and significantly increases the bar for an attacker to bypass authentication. So if we go back to our Duo admin panel again, so what we're looking at is our admin here, and for her, the complete details are captured in the authentication log for investigation and audit purposes. The event, as you can see here in big letters, we've kind of blown it up a little bit, but the event here is seen as denied. Why? Again, because that endpoint is not considered to be trusted. So now I'm going to turn it back to Jen.
Thanks, Scott. So hopefully this has demystified the path of an attacker and made it clear that even though attackers are finding new ways to get around our traditional security measures, we still have a lot of tools in our toolkit to stop those attackers. So if an attacker obtains credentials, right, if they have those passwords, if, like Scott's son, they reuse the same 3 passwords for every single account, well, we know we need an extra layer of security. That password simply isn't enough. So by having strong authentication measures at the point of login, that can prevent an attacker from proceeding with an MFA-focused attack like a push harassment or push bombing attack, where someone who's really used to accepting MFA requests accidentally accepts one and then enables that attacker to gain access to their organization. We've also seen Scott walk us through how we can combine not just strong authentication measures, but also device security. So making sure only known devices are even able to begin with that login. And with trusted endpoints too, it doesn't have to be just corporate managed devices. You can also log unmanaged devices in order to ensure that, if you have contractors or third parties that need access, that you can grant that access if necessary. So we think about this path and all of the different ways that Duo can stop an attacker. We really want to think about why Duo. And we think that Duo is a great solution for a few different reasons. One, stronger security. There are a lot of ways that you can put roadblocks in front of attackers, and this is an easy way for our end users to still go about their jobs while putting those roadblocks in front of untrusted users or bad actors. Similarly, higher productivity. We don't want to get in the way of people doing their jobs. We don't expect employees to be cybersecurity experts. That's not their job. They really shouldn't have to worry about that. And so we provide this unmatched value. We make all of these policies available to our users. That way they can increase that security without stopping trusted users. And that's really the goal at Duo, is to democratize security, make it available to all organizations, all users, so that way you can feel protected and go about doing your jobs. And we can focus on the cybersecurity element for you. To wrap up, I'm going to pass it back to Scott, and he's going to walk through our different tiers where you can access these different policies and solutions.
All right, thanks, Jen. Yeah, as Jen said, look, we're going to wrap up here very shortly, but we did want to walk you through what are the different Duo editions that are available to organizations. We do offer a free trial, by the way, which is great. But in terms of the paid Duo editions that we offer, we have 3, and you can see those at the top of the screen. I like to think of them as good, better, best. And there are Duo Essentials, Duo Advantage, and then on the high end, Duo Premier. So let's take a quick look at each of those 3. For all organizations, you're going to get a majority of the features that we offer with Duo Essentials. And really what Duo Essentials is about, it's providing organizations with everything that is needed to provide secure access for their users and also boost the productivity of those users. I do want to just spend a quick second here talking about that concept for a minute, which is this balance between security and user productivity. What we found is that those two things really go hand in hand, and you need to have a good balance. If you go too far in one direction or the other, meaning you're leaning too far on the making it easy for users to help them be more productive, then you come across some security risks. But on the other hand, if you lean too far on the other side with security, then what we found is security becomes more of a barrier and an inhibitor than it does a facilitator. And ironically, what you're going to find is that your employees will, if they're not able to get their work done with the solution that you're providing, then they're going to go around you and they're going to come up with their own solution. Sometimes we found that what people do is they go pay for a new cloud service and they start uploading files up into the cloud. And then you've got, suddenly you've got company information in places that you didn't even know about. So just something to be aware of, again, that need to have balance between security and productivity. But again, Duo Essentials, it'll give organizations everything that they need for both of those. We've got features ranging from multi-factor authentication to passwordless authentication. You heard Jen talk about verified Duo push. I talked a little bit about single sign-on. And trusted endpoints as well. And we do this across an unlimited number of applications. A lot of times I think people are thinking, well, maybe it does only really work with certain applications, maybe Microsoft applications, because that's what we use as our productivity suite. No, it includes homegrown applications, custom applications as well. So moving up from there, we've got Duo Advantage, and now you're getting into this realm of, okay, we're getting a little bit more security and greater user productivity, because why? Well, we're adding additional features and capabilities with Duo Advantage. So you heard Jen talk about risk-based authentication as well. So stepping up authentication requirements when the conditions become a little bit riskier for an authentication. I talked about device health checks, making sure that the device is running the latest operating system, for instance, and that, again, that device is in a healthy and trusted state. And you're also getting greater visibility into all the devices that are accessing resources on your network. And then finally from there, if you step up to the highest level, now we've got Duo Premier. And here, yes, you're getting the highest level of security and user productivity, along with easy access to specific resources that maybe are private resources that you are hosting on premises with something called the Duo Network Gateway. So again, these kind of build on each other. And when you get to Duo Premier, you're getting all of the capabilities that Duo offers. So that's everything that we have for you today. I personally want to say, hey, thank you very much. I know everybody's very busy, but appreciate your time. Hopefully you learned a few things. Jen, I'm going to throw it back to you if you have any kind of closing words of wisdom for folks today that you'd like to share. Besides not sharing your passwords or reusing your passwords, with pretty much every account that you have.
Right. That's definitely a good tip that we should all take away. And hopefully some of these other measures that we've spoken about as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jen and Scott. That was a really awesome presentation. Loved having the two of you here. Unfortunately, we don't have any time left for a live Q&A. So for those of you who did ask some incredible questions, the Cisco Duo team will reach out after today's EcoCast and follow up with you with any of the queries that you had. And speaking of following up after the EcoCast, I've got a poll up here just asking what additional information you would like about the Cisco Duo solution. So if you are looking to take a next step, find out a little more information, the data sheets, white paper, pricing details, personal demo, just plunk in a response on that poll and let the team know what kind of information you would like, and they will get it to you over the next couple of days. Now, if you do want to learn more right away, go to the handout tab and click the link for the new ebook titled Attack Vectors Decoded: Securing Organizations Against Identity-Based Threats. This would be a perfect way to follow up on the convo we just had with the Cisco Duo team, and it's definitely worth a read, so go check it out. And again, if you haven't been in that handouts tab yet, we have assets from both of our presenting teams in there. You might as well grab them, download them, and hang on to them for after today's EcoCast, so that if and when you've got some time and questions about what you've seen today, you'll be able to refer back to those there. Now, with that, I do have some exciting news. We have some prizes to give away. We've got the three $300 Amazon gift cards up for grabs. And quick reminder that you must be present at today's webinar to win. So hopefully your ears are perked up and you're going to hear your name called out in just one quick second. I am going to quickly close this poll now. So last chance is to click. 3, 2, 1. And here we go. So our first lucky winner of today of the $300 Amazon gift card is Larry Begwandine from California. Congratulations, Larry. We will be reaching out after today's EcoCast, and we're going to let you know how to claim your prize. Now, next up on today's roster, we are excited to introduce from the Rubrik team, Veer Choksi. He is the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Rubrik. Veer, we've definitely had you on before, and you definitely know how to bring a crowd and a lot of questions. So if you're out there today and you don't know Veer yet, you are in for a treat. Veer, I'm going to kick things over to you and let you chat about the vital connection between cyber resiliency and enterprise backup and recovery. So go ahead and take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Veer Choksi. I've been with Rubrik for a little bit over 2 years. Now, in my role, I get to speak with both IT and security professionals. I imagine that this audience skews a little bit more towards the security side, and in many organizations, these functions are fairly siloed. So my goal with this presentation is to bring you all a little bit into the world of IT and backup, and to explain how enterprise backup and recovery belongs in the cybersecurity conversation and is a really vital component of cyber resilience. So we're going to talk about a newish flavor of security called data security. We're going to talk about why recoverability is a key part of cyber resilience. I'm going to spend some time talking about why backup matters and what you can get out of your backups. And then I'm going to end with a few final thoughts. So backup was really built for disaster recovery, meaning things like operational failures and natural disasters. However, in the age of cybercrime, this is simply not enough. It's important to have secure backup, and backups are often your last line of defense. Now, cybersecurity traditionally has focused on infrastructure security around prevention and detection in your production systems. And despite significant investments in infrastructure security and prevention tools, the risk of a breach can only be reduced. It can't be completely eliminated. Attackers, as everybody knows, are still managing to penetrate defenses and get at your data. So just as important as reducing the likelihood of a successful attack is reducing the impact of an attack. How quickly can business as usual be restored if an attack were to happen? And how can you, as a potential victim, make informed decisions to enable a successful recovery? And I'll explain why backups play a really important role. The typical security stack is necessary but not sufficient because attackers are still managing to deny victims their own data. We can think of ransomware and other types of cyber attacks as denial of data attacks. I want to set the stage with a little bit of research from Rubrik Zero Labs, our threat research unit. We commission market research, use third-party information, and also telemetry from Rubrik customers. And last year, 93% of organizations surveyed reported malicious actors attempting to impact their data backups. And 73% of those efforts were at least partially successful. Now, this is a broad survey. It's not Rubrik customers, but this goes to show that backups are something that both IT and security teams should have an interest in. Now, is your data an easy target? As I said before, traditional backup architectures were designed for disaster recovery and not so much for malicious cyber attacks. And it's important for us to ask ourselves questions like, are 100% of our backups immutable? Is the backup infrastructure physically isolated from the environment that it's protecting? And are multi-factor authentication and retention lock properly enforced? If not, your backups can get tampered with and you might not have anything to recover. You might be forced to consider having to pay a ransom. And with IT environments becoming more complex, distributed, hybrid cloud and multi-cloud, a similar set of considerations also applies to your cloud data. So backup is not cyber recovery, and disaster recovery is not cyber recovery in today's day and age. And when impacted by a cyber attack, organizations have to answer questions like, what exactly do I recover? Was sensitive data in scope? What is a safe restore point? And how do I ensure that I don't restore the malware? You need answers to those questions fast so that you can respond quickly and confidently. And executives and boards are also seeking answers to questions around cyber recovery, such as, are we good? Can you prove it? And how long will it take? So your data protection and data security platform has a major role to play in answering those kinds of questions. So let's spend a moment talking about some considerations around recoverability. So in order to meet business continuity objectives, backups need to be configured with the right policies for each data object, namely how often you're taking backup snapshots and how long data is retained. When an incident occurs, you need to determine what systems were impacted and the last known clean snapshot, easier said than done, and restore it to get back to business as usual. And so the red part here is all downtime. And recoverability is described by two key metrics, recovery point objective and recovery time objective, RPO and RTO. RPO is the point that you can recover from. RTO is the time it takes to recover. RPO is largely dictated by the frequency at which backups are happening. And the RTO is actually largely dictated by physics. There is some influencing that can be done here architecturally, but RPO is the easier knob to turn. At the end of the day, if the frequency of backup snapshots is too infrequent and the physics are not optimized, that can result in lost data and productivity. When I say data loss here, it's not exactly the same as data loss in the DLP context, but it's still losing your own data nonetheless. Now, why does backup matter? So there are benefits to tackling data protection and data security on the same platform. The first big one being there's a large surface area of data in your backups. Most organizations are backing up many different types of objects, including Windows and Linux file systems, NAS shares, databases, VMs, etc. Security tools like EDRs and antivirus software aren't always deployed on all of those objects. They're not always monitoring and listening on all of your critical infrastructure and critical data objects. So there is a lot of intelligence that can be gathered by analyzing those immutable backups across time. And I'll get a little bit more into that. And this can all be done via a fully hosted and integrated platform. And Rubrik Security Cloud is a SaaS offering. So you can remove silos with a single platform for data protection, data threat analytics, data security posture, and cyber recovery. And you can take advantage of the latest innovations delivered automatically to you. So the question really is, what if you could leverage your existing backup data to investigate threats and recover with greater speed and confidence? Because everybody has backups already, right? So your own backup data can actually be a rich source of intelligence to improve your cyber resilience. Now, some of the questions that I posed earlier can be addressed with data threat analytics. And data threat analytics refers to the ability to continuously monitor your data for risks and detect cyber threats. So if you're taking regular backup snapshots, you're in a good position to recruit your data in the fight against ransomware and other types of cyber incidents. And that's because you're capturing the longitudinal time series history of data if you're protecting your data with Rubrik. And additionally, Rubrik manages metadata, including its content, users, and access privileges to shed light on your data security posture. And so by scanning hundreds of snapshots, Rubrik's data threat analytics engine generates signals that are fed into a highly trained machine learning model. And that builds a historical baseline against which new data can be compared to find anomalous modifications, deletions, and encryptions. And again, we're capturing time series data from enterprise, cloud, and SaaS environments, feeding that data into the data threat engine, and that can result in valuable security intelligence, shining a light on those blind spots so that you can make informed recovery decisions and even get automated remediation recommendations. So what can you do with data threat analytics? You can detect threats early by automatically identifying indicators of compromise within backups using an up-to-date feed of threat intelligence. You can determine the scope of ransomware attacks using machine learning to detect deletions, modifications, and encryptions. And you can determine the initial point, scope, and time of infection by identifying specific indicators of compromise within the time series history of backup data. And because all of this scanning is done on backups, there's no impact to your production systems. So let's take a look at each of those three services within data threat analytics, starting with threat monitoring. So the way this works is that threat intelligence is fed into the Rubrik threat feed. The hashes and Yara rules themselves can come from different contributors. One of the contributors is Rubrik's own InfoSec team. So you can leverage the same intelligence that we're protecting Rubrik the business with. Intelligence also comes from Zero Labs, Rubrik's threat research team, and it can also come from third parties. Either way, we vet the intelligence prior to including it in the feed to ensure the quality of the intelligence is high and that the threats are relevant to critical infrastructure environments. The intelligence gets downloaded at set time intervals, and when there's new intelligence available, a hunt gets kicked off automatically and searches for threats based off of those hashes and Yara rules. And should a match occur, you'll be notified right away by email. You can then drill down via the dashboard to see where the threat was located, what hash or Yara was matched, and find attributes associated with that hash or Yara for more background information to assist in potentially kicking off other threat hunts via Rubrik's threat hunting service or via third-party tools like a SIEM or an EDR. You can also quarantine the threat within your backup from within threat monitoring as well. So essentially, this threat monitoring service is a turnkey solution to help detect and protect your organization from threats. The intelligence gets downloaded automatically. It hunts based off of this intelligence automatically. And if any threats are found, you'll be notified about the threat, and any attributes associated with that threat will be shared whenever possible. It really is that simple. This is literally set it and forget it. The next data threat analytics service that I want to talk about is anomaly detection. Now, this service provides a comprehensive approach to ransomware remediation. We use multi-stage machine learning to detect anomalies in your backup data. The stages include observing file creations, deletions, and modifications, and comparing it to historical changes within that specific workload. Now, in addition to that, entropy is also analyzed to determine if a ransomware-like encryption has happened. And if possible, we'll also identify the specific ransomware strain as well. Now, if an attack has occurred, Rubrik automates the assessment of the blast radius to quickly understand what applications and files were impacted and when. That eliminates the intensive manual labor that's often required, such as bringing up a VM copy and manually comparing and scrubbing for changes. And finally, your backup file system has immutability. So since your data is never available in read-write mode, it simply can't be changed or overwritten. Fast and flexible recovery options can be used to revert back to the most recent clean version, whether using instant recovery, live mount, file level recovery, or orchestrated recovery. And that brings me to threat hunting. And now this is a powerful tool that lets you perform custom scans within your backups on demand for specific indicators of compromise. You can identify the point of malware entry so that you know what point in time to recover to avoid reinfection and minimize data loss. Threat hunting is both broad and deep. It allows you to scan multiple workloads and across time. Threat hunting is flexible. It can consume and search for threats via Yara rules, file hashes, and file patterns. These types of threat intelligence are industry standards. Thus, this allows you to leverage threat intelligence from various sources, such as internal sources like your own InfoSec team, third-party intelligence services that could be paid or open source, from industry groups such as ISACs, and even government agencies who issue threat bulletins. Now, much like anomaly detection, threat hunts are done on backups, and thus there's no impact on live production systems. Threat actors remain unaware of the ongoing hunt. And lastly, since Rubrik backups are immutable, you can identify indicators of compromise that attackers have erased from production systems in an attempt to cover their tracks. So threat hunting can shortcut the hunt for the point in time and the place where adversaries may have gained access to your infrastructure, and help to define the clean recovery point so that you're not recovering with the malware still in place. Let's look at a typical ransomware attack and how data threat analytics fits in. Bad actors will establish initial access, followed by a lateral move, persistence, privilege escalation, recon, collecting, and staging. And finally, there's exfiltration and encryption. So anomaly detection pinpoints the impact on the target. You can identify the blast radius so that you know what to recover quickly. Threat monitoring and threat hunting identify when the attacker's established access so that you can ensure a safe restore point. So threat monitoring is a passive activity, while threat hunting is more active if there are specific indicators of compromise that you want to hunt for. Now, these are all very powerful when used in conjunction and help you to make sure that your recovery is as fast and safe as possible. So data threat analytics, again, to recap, combines three powerful threat detection engines. With threat monitoring, you can continuously scan for known threats to detect compromise before the damage is done. With anomaly detection, you can detect file system anomalies and even VM anomalies to identify data destruction and the blast radius of an attack. And with threat hunting, incident responders can hunt for IOCs throughout the time series of data. So let's move on to data security posture. So what can you do with data security posture? You can reduce sensitive data exposure and manage exfiltration risk by discovering what types of sensitive data you have and where it lives. And you can also reduce this data exposure risk by identifying who has access to that sensitive data. Again, just like with data threat analytics, because all of this scanning is done on backups, there isn't impact to your production systems. So let's take a look at the services that make up data security posture, starting with sensitive data monitoring. Now, this service automatically discovers and classifies sensitive data, both on premises and in the cloud, including in Microsoft 365. We offer many pre-built analyzers that are aligned to common policies. So for example, analyzers that'll discover PII, PHI, GDPR data, etc. And sensitive data monitoring offers benefits both in peacetime and in an attack scenario. So in the proactive use case, you can determine, is data stored in the right places? It's very common for organizations to discover that they have sensitive data somewhere where they didn't expect it to be. And also, are we complying properly with data regulations? Now, in the reactive use case in the attack scenario, this is also useful for regulatory compliance and reporting. You can find out whether sensitive data may have been impacted in an attack and notify the appropriate parties. Now, user access helps you reduce the risk of sensitive data exposure by providing intelligent insights into data access permissions. So you can proactively identify which users have access to what data and what type of risk that access poses. This comes in handy when conducting forensic investigations post-incident, since you'll be able to quickly identify which users had access to the impacted data and therefore narrow down the list of potentially compromised credentials. So again, my goal here was to give you all a peek into why your backup system is a key component of cyber resilience, and just a few takeaways here. Backups are often the last line of defense against cyber attacks, and it's really, really important for your backups to be air-gapped and immutable so that they can't be impacted by those bad actors. Backup policies impact recoverability. It's important to prioritize your data assets. Every type of data object is different, and define RPOs and RTOs. Backups contain really valuable security intelligence. For example, the blast radius of an attack, indicators of compromise, a clean restore point, content sensitivity and access permissions, even remediation recommendations. Again, your backups are your own data, and we should be leveraging this data to get the security intelligence that'll help us get back to business as usual as quick as possible. And lastly, both IT and security should have a seat at the table. And I would encourage everyone to involve IT in your tabletops, because there's a lot of information, like I've been saying, within the backups that those teams can provide. Rubrik Security Cloud is composed of a set of capabilities around data protection, data threat analytics, data security posture, and cyber recovery. And I spent a good chunk of time in this presentation talking through the detect and identify pieces here, but there's a lot more that I barely touched on, including orchestrated recovery and different integrations that we have with other security solutions like DLP, SIEM, and SOAR systems. That's everything that I have for you today. I hope that this session was useful. If you'd like to learn more about Rubrik and our product offerings, please get in touch. If you're curious about the state of data security and want to read more of our research, do check out our Hard Truths report at rubrik.com/0-labs. If you'd like to see the product in action, head over to rubrik.com/explore. Once again, thank you for joining me today. Take care.
Take care as well, Veer. Thank you so much. I do have a final poll question for you all. We would love to get your feedback on any additional resources that you would like to explore from Rubrik. Again, think of this as your wish list, your easy button. You will get exactly what you're looking for when you're looking for after today's EcoCast. So again, take a minute to dive in there, answer the poll. And while you're at it, we also, of course, have our handout tab. So I do want to remind everyone, if you haven't yet taken a little look over into the handout section, you can grab Rubrik's data sheet. It is anomaly detection, so you can detect and recover from cyber attacks, and that is there, as well as the Cisco Duo handout. So you're definitely going to want to grab both of those. As I mentioned, today is short and sweet. Our EcoCast just has these two fantastic presenters, and we're about to wrap things up. So don't hesitate to answer that poll. Don't hesitate to snag those handouts and keep them on file so that you can reference them later. And of course, with that, we have some more prizes to give away today on today's EcoCast. So thanks for being here. Right now, the second $300 Amazon gift card is going to be given away. You do need to be present to win. So let's hope our final couple winners are here indeed. Drum roll on your desk or wherever you are today. The next winner is Averil Anderson from Maryland. And our third and final winner today is Rohit Narayana from California. And a huge congratulations to all three winners. Just to recap, our first winner was Larry Begwadine from California. We've got Averil Anderson from Maryland. We've got Rohit Narayana from California. So once again, big congrats, and we will be in touch about claiming your prize after today's webinar. Plus, for all of you that did ask some great questions, you may be a lucky winner today as well, winning a $50 Amazon gift card for a best question prize. Now, if you are in today's webinar and you would like to chat with us about presenting on a future summit, EcoCast, or MegaCast webinar, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com, and we'll give you all the details on how that would go. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our speakers from Cisco Duo and Rubrik for making this EcoCast possible. I want to also give a special thank you to all of you for attending and asking some great questions. I had so much fun today with you all talking security analytics tools and SecOps processes. I hope you've all gotten some interesting ideas and tips, and maybe you're feeling excited and you're going to leave ready to take some next steps. If you did enjoy your time today and you wish to check out an upcoming event, an EcoCast, MegaCast, or Summit with us, well, mark your calendars for Tuesday, May 28th. We have an EcoCast discussing strategies and tools for supercharging your public cloud infrastructure. So if that is something you are looking at setting up with your organization, definitely check that out. And with that, I believe that's everything. I hope to see you all again soon. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely magical day.